One of the great features of Moodle is the quizzing activity. It allows instructors to post assignments that Moodle will mark automatically. Today I'm going to walk you through this process of creating your own quiz, and then I'll show you how you can view the results. Before you can start your quizzing activity, you need questions. You can locate them down in the Administration tab by following the Questions link. This will take us to the question banks that we've already installed for the course. If you need to create your own, it's a simple process I can walk you through, but you might also consider importing them. If you already use Blackboard, WebCT, Hot Potatoes, or maybe ExamView to create test questions, those questions can be imported to Moodle right here. Also, you can share amongst your other colleagues by exporting them. This will produce a file that they could then upload to their course. Before you create your questions, it's a good idea to organize them in categories. Simply clicking on the tab will bring you to new categories. You can add one here. I've already created the BC Fun Facts category to organize the quiz I'm going to walk you through. It would look like this. The information you give is the name that you'll refer to the category, and then a description. These are just to keep you organized. The students won't see them. Now that we have a category, we can organize our questions by creating them under that heading. So I'm going to select the one that I used for this quiz, BC Fun Facts, and then all I need to do is choose the type of question that I want. There's a really great help file in order to give you a description of what's available for the questions. If you don't already recognize the format or how to use them, this is a great place to start. The kind of question I'm going to show you how to work with is a short answer question. I've already have a couple created, so we'll use those to save time. This is the screen you're going to see when it comes time to create your question. Your text boxes will be empty. But I give the question a name that I can then find when I want to add it to a quiz. This is not something that students will see. Here though, in the question text is what will be displayed for students. After I've typed the question in, I need to decide what's the value of this question, how many points I want to assign, and whether or not to give a penalty factor. You can fill this in and decide whether to apply it later, but right now what this means is the maximum points they can get is 1. However, if they get it wrong, then the maximum they'll be able to get is 0.9. If they get it wrong a second time, the maximum will be 0.8, and so on. So if you're allowing students to do multiple attempts and you don't want them to just be guessing randomly, or you don't want to give full marks if they didn't get it right the first time, then the penalty factor is how you do that. General feedback is something that will be displayed when the question is submitted by the student. You can choose to turn this on or off, but it again provides some generic feedback about the question. So here, the BC provincial bird is the Steller jay, so I've given some generic information about the Steller jay. We can provide more specific feedback based on the answers the students give us below. At this point, we need to start anticipating the answers students could provide. The first decision is whether or not case matters. The correct answer is Steller jay, so I've entered that in as answer number 1. The grade is worth 100%, but you can also choose to give partial credit. This is a nice feature if you have an answer which you think deserves some partial credit. You can choose it from the list below. If you don't think it deserves any credit, just select none. You'll notice that I put stars at the front and the end of the Steller jay. What this does is it allows a student to enter anything before it, and the Moodle system will still answer it correctly. This is nice because then students won't be frustrated by the fact that they've put Steller jay in their answer, but Moodle's marked it incorrectly. We can also put in answers that we think students may give that are incorrect. For example, I put robin in here as an answer because it's another common bird in BC. I'll give no mark for it because it's incorrect, but it allows me to provide feedback specific to that answer. So in this way I can target the students' answers better in trying to help them understand where they went wrong. Now that I'm finished entering my answers, all I need to do is go down to the bottom and enter to save my changes, and it'll take me back to the question banks. So now I can see if I wanted to view it. Here's the BC bird question. This is how it will appear for students, and I can also test it in this window to see what happens. So for example, here was the robin, and it says, sorry, it's a nice bird, but not the provincial bird. And again, if I entered it as in Steller jay is the provincial bird, it's still correct because the wildcard stars I put on it allow for anything to be before or after it. When you're finished creating questions, you can add them to a quiz by going back to your main course page. The quiz activity needs editing to be on, so turn it on. And then scroll down to the week where you'd like to add your quiz activity. Now this is the name for the quiz, and I'll call this Fun Facts About British Columbia. And that's what the student will see when they're logged into Moodle and they need to complete the quiz. The introduction appears at the beginning of the quiz. Here is a quick quiz of things about British Columbia. So when you set up a quiz, you can provide specific times to open and close the quiz, as well as a time limit. Another nice feature is to discourage students from guessing, you're able to choose a time delay between questions. For example, if they were to answer the first question incorrectly, you might force them to wait, say, 60 minutes before they can answer again. That way it'll try to discourage your students from just trying to game the system by guessing correctly. To discourage students from sharing answers, you can choose whether or not to shuffle the order in which they're displayed, as well as whether you want to shuffle within the question, for example, things like multiple choice. That way, even if students are sitting beside each other, it's not likely they'll see the same version of the quiz. If you plan to allow students to take multiple attempts of your quiz, here's where you find the option. If you're also planning on using the penalty mode that I mentioned when we created the question, here's where you can apply it. Another nice feature is that if students do take multiple attempts, Moodle will automatically choose one version for you, whether you want to select their highest grade, the average grade, the first or last attempt that they've made. Another thing you'll need to decide is when to display certain aspects of the quiz. For example, when they make an attempt, you may not want to show them the answer right away, so you can uncheck that box. As I mentioned with general feedback, you may want to hide that as well if it also gives them a clue to the answer. Whereas when the quiz is already closed and marking is finished, you can show them the answers that they should have had and of course provide general feedback there too. But again, it's up to you where you find appropriate to use those features. The last thing I'll mention is that it's possible to give feedback to the quiz. So for example, I'll make 3 categories here. Students between 80 and 100%, I'll tell them that they've done excellent work. Students that have gotten between 60 and 80%, maybe I'll just say great job. And for students that got less than 60%, maybe I'll tell them that they need more practice. So this feedback is provided based on their overall score in the quiz. Now that we've set all the options for the quiz, we need to add questions. To do that, we're going to click Save and Display. This will bring me to a screen where I can add questions from the question bank. Now my questions appear based on the category that I choose. So we've already selected BC Fun Facts, and I see just the ones relevant from that category. Select the ones I want to put in the quiz, and click Add to Quiz. Now that you've added questions, you can view your quiz by clicking on the Preview tab. This is the view the students will see. I'm going to go and log in now as a student so you can see their view of the quiz. Now that I've logged in as a student, I would scroll down to the week's activities and click on the Fun Facts About British Columbia quiz. I'll attempt my quiz, and when I answer, I can submit all of them at once, or I can submit them individually. So the first one I ended up getting correct, but I didn't get this one correct about the capital of British Columbia. Vancouver's not the capital, that's a common mistake. It's actually Victoria. So when I'm finished reviewing this, I'll click on Finish Review, and it's telling me that I am able to do this unlimited amount of times with the highest grade being accepted. So, I could try to change my answer, but I'm going to leave it incorrect on purpose because I want to show you what happens in the results when one is incorrect. So I'll say I'm finished, and there's my marks. So 1 out of 2 was 5 out of 10. Fully marked. Looks like you need some practice. That was the feedback I got because I was below 60%. So now I'm going to switch back to the instructor role so you can see what they would see about the student's performance. So now that I'm back on as an instructor, I can click on my quiz and see how my students are doing. Under the Results tab, it'll show me only one attempt has been made, because I'm the only student in this course, and I ended up getting 5 out of 10. It took me 13 seconds to do the quiz, 5 out of 5 for the first one, and 0 out of 5 for the second one. It would give me an overall average in the whole class if more than one student had taken this quiz. A couple of neat things happen automatically when a student takes a quiz. For example, if I scroll below, you'll see a histogram showing all the achievement for students in the class. So for this assignment, I'm the only student, so there's only one, but you can see my grade represented between a mark of 5 and 6. Had I had a whole class of 30 to 50 students, this would show the distribution of their marks. I can also go and get more detailed analysis by each question by clicking on this item analysis. The items analysis table shows me the results from each individual question. In red are the incorrect answers that students have given. This shows me that Penticton and Vancouver were used as answers to the capital BC, which can be useful in me trying to adjust my lesson and figure out where they're getting this misinformation from. The correct answers are going to be displayed in blue, and it will show what percentage of students were correct. For example, under Stellar J, 100% of students answered correctly for Stellar J, but Robin was one of the incorrect answers that was given. Another thing that Moodle can do for you once your quiz is live is perhaps a student has gotten their mark graded and they feel there's an error in your answer key. You'd have to regrade all your papers by hand and have them resubmitted in order to do this, but with Moodle, all you need to do is click on the regrade. That will then regrade all the quizzes with whatever edit that you've made to it, and that way the student's marks will be updated automatically for you. Hopefully this tutorial has given you some interest in using the Moodle quiz activity in your own course. I'm just going to leave you with one final resource. Moodle has its own effective quiz practices page where members of the community contribute. If you're looking for more information on using quizzes, this is where I recommend you start.